Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is one that I can't believe I haven't told yet. It's about the story time of how I almost got expelled from YouTube. You're probably like, Austin, what does that even mean? I'm going to tell you about it today. Can't believe I forgot about this one. I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like in the video if you do, and let's jump into it. So today's story time all takes place back in my last year of high school. Now at this point in my high school career, my YouTube was kind of starting to take off. It was starting to do pretty well. And I had like no motivation for school. Like it was to the point where I was skipping school to do YouTube and stream on Twitch. Now when I say that, I'm not saying that like it was an achievement or like it was cool, but that was just my current mind state at the time. Like I was just putting YouTube and Twitch above everything else, and clearly it was working because the more and more effort I put into it, the further it would grow. So I just wanted to not stop at that. I was like at all costs just doing that. And I was skipping school a lot at this point. And that wasn't good. I was getting calls from my school like every single day to my mom's cell phone and to my home phone number being like, hey, where's your son? Oh, Austin, are you there? You got to come into school, buddy. Yeah, needless to say, the teachers and the staff were pretty pissed off at me. So one day, this all starts off as a normal day. I wake up to a phone call on my home phone calling me, wondering where I am, where am I, and I tell them that I'm not feeling good like I did every other day. And to be honest, that wasn't even a lie. Like I really didn't feel good every day. I was always really anxious about going into school. But the lady that would call would just always call me on my bullshit. She's like, Austin, I know you're not sick. Like you've been saying you're sick for 20 days. You can't be sick for 20 days. Come on, you sound fine. And I was like, actually, Miss Faculty Lady, you can be sick for 20 days. It happened to me when I had the swine flu. So, yeah, take that. And she's like, yeah, well, the swine flu's not happening anymore. So you got to come into school and do your work. You're really behind. And I was like, okay. So I got up, got dressed, called up one of my friends, asked him if he could take me into school. He was like, yeah, man, for sure. He came and picked me up. I got in the car. He was like, yo, quick question. Why am I taking you to school? Like, why doesn't your mom take you? I was like, oh, she goes to work at like 6, 7 in the morning, so that's why I'm always skipping. Like, she's not there to stop me. And he's like, oh, that makes sense. Gotcha. So anyway, he drives me to school. I walk in, and before I can even get to my first period class, I get called into the main office because I was late for like the 30th time. And I walk into the main office, and the vice principal is like, hey, can I talk to you real quick? Now she brings me into her office. I sit down, and I was like, hey, what's up? And she goes, Austin, you have been late. Like, no joke, over 10 times this month alone, every single day. Some days you don't even come into school. Like, what are you doing skipping that much? Like, what's going on? And I was like, well, I'm just really, really, distracted by other things, I guess, and anxious. And she goes, about what? I was like, school. It makes me anxious. And she's like, listen, Austin, I know about your little YouTube hobby. We all know about it here at the faculty. Like, just gotta let you know, if you keep putting more time into that than school, you're gonna fail school. And at this point, I just didn't care. I was like, oh, well, I guess that's a risk I'm willing to take. And she goes, Austin, if you don't get it together, I'm going to expel you. And I think to myself, this is the vice principal, not even the principal. So, like, can she even expel me? So I just asked her. I was like, what would I be expelled for specifically? And she's like, oh, I'm not talking about school. I'm talking about YouTube. And I start laughing because I think she's joking, right? And she's like, no, I'm serious. I have a friend. He's an employee at Google. I bet he knows some people in some high places. He could probably deal with this little YouTube problem you're having. And I'm thinking to myself, this can't be real. Like, no way in fucking hell did my vice principal just threaten to get my YouTube, like, deleted or threaten to get me, like, banned off YouTube or, quote-unquote, expelled off YouTube. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? So I ask her that. I'm like, what are you talking about, like, expelling me from YouTube? Like, what does that even mean? She goes, oh, like, getting your channel, like, taken from you. And I was like, first of all, my YouTube channel is an out-of-school activity. This is not your lane, so stay the fuck out of mine. And she's like, Austin, language. I'm like, you just threatened something outside of school that you have no power over, and I'll be telling everyone here about that, so go fuck yourself. And I stand up and I walk out of the room. And she's following me out of the room, yelling at the security guards to stop me from leaving. And they get in my way and they block the door. And they're like, go back in the office with her. So I have to go back into this lady's office, sit back down with her. And she goes, Austin, okay, maybe we got off on the wrong foot here. I don't want to contact my friend, but your YouTube stuff is cutting into your school stuff, which is directly affecting your future. And I just care about your future. And I was like, if you cared about my future, you'd stay the fuck out of it. And then I started calling her out on her bullshit because I didn't believe her. I was like, I bet you don't even have a friend that works at YouTube or Google or whatever. Like, I bet you're full of shit. And she's like, oh, no, I do. His name's Brian. And she said his last name, too. And I was like, oh, yeah? Give me Brian's phone number then. She goes, okay, you can call him yourself and find out. So she ends up giving me her friend's phone number and tells me to call him right then and there. And I dial it on my cell phone, and he answers after like 2 rings. He's like, hello? I was like, hey, is this Brian? And he's like, yeah, who's this? I'm like, my name's Austin. I'm a student at your friend's school, and she just threatened to have my YouTube expelled from me or, taken from me because I'm not doing well in school. And I just wanted to call to verify that that's bullshit. So can you please confirm that that's bullshit and that she can't do that? And he's like, wait, what? She told you that she was going to get your channel taken away over school activities? I was like, yeah, basically. And he goes, well, just to reassure you, I don't think she said that, but if she did, she can't have that happen. And I couldn't do that if I wanted to. Like, there needs to be like an actual break of terms of service. Like, you need to be doing something wrong on YouTube itself, not in your school. So, don't really know why she would say that. I don't even know if I believe she would say that. Like, is this a prank or something? And I was like, no, why don't you say hello? And I hand the phone over to my vice principal. And she goes, hey, Brian, like, what I was saying was just more of like, exaggeration. I was just trying to scare him into doing better. And I was like, oh, what a great person you are. And she hangs up the phone on him, and she goes, Austin, you know what I meant. And I was like, no, not really. That's pretty fucking evil. So after this, she just tells me to go back to class and to do better. And I take my phone, I go back down to class. And I was so mad the whole day, right? Like, I was so pissed and just like couldn't believe that she threatened that when she knew she had no power to. So during my lunch period, I went back up to the main office and I talked to my actual principal. And I was like, hey, just so you know, the vice principal is threatening students, saying that she can do things outside of school to them that she's not allowed to do. For example, deleting accounts from students, like their YouTubes and stuff. And my principal's like, okay, elaborate. And I basically ended up snitching on her. I just told my principal everything that happened and everything she said. And my principal's like, okay, I'll have a talk with her. Like, thanks for telling me, Austin. Have a good one. So I leave the room, and, the rest of the day goes normal. Nothing else really happened. And then the next day comes along. I walk into school. I may or may not have been late again. I walked in, and my principal immediately calls me into the office. And I walk in, and my vice principal is sitting in the room with the principal and me, and she's giving me the dirtiest look on planet Earth. Like, my vice principal looks so pissed at me. She looked like she wanted to rip my head off. I sit down in the chair next to her, and my principal goes, so I think you owe Austin an apology. And my vice principal looks at me and goes, I'm sorry, Austin. And I was like, thank you, all good. And my main principal is like, okay, Austin, like, there will be no more issues, no more threats of any such regarding your YouTube channel and your out-of-school hobbies. Sorry about that. You can go to class now. I was like, sounds good. And I walked out of there feeling very satisfied. Now, that's pretty much where that ended. My vice principal literally didn't talk to me ever again after that. Like, no joke, not a word to me ever again. I think she probably still hates me to this day. And who knows, she might be watching this video because she knew about my YouTube channel. So if you're watching this, I'm really not sorry. Anyway, that's pretty much the end of the story time, guys. Moral of the story is, don't be skipping school as much as I was, because that's still not good to do. And also, don't act like my vice principal and, stay in your lane. But yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I would really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Like, what's up? They leave me out for the dead, and now they know their fault. All my texts are unread, that's how